A time I learned something new. Hello, my friend. Welcome back. I'm Channie. I'm so happy that you're here with me again today. Thank you for choosing to spend part of your day practicing English. I know that learning a language is not always easy. Sometimes you learn many new words in one day. Sometimes you forget the words you learned yesterday. Sometimes you feel confident. Sometimes you feel frustrated. But that's okay. Learning is not about being perfect. Learning is about growing little by little, every single day. So today, don't worry if you don't understand every word. Just relax. Listen carefully. Enjoy the story, and let your English improve naturally. Today's topic is a time I learned something new. Have you ever learned something that changed the way you think? Maybe it was a new language. Maybe it was cooking. Maybe it was riding a bicycle. Maybe it was learning how to use a computer. Or maybe it was not a skill at all. Maybe it was an important lesson about life. Learning happens every day. Sometimes we learn from teachers. Sometimes we learn from books. Sometimes we learn from our parents. Sometimes we learn from our friends. Sometimes we even learn from complete strangers. And very often, we learn from our mistakes. When I was younger, I believed that learning only happened in school. I thought that classrooms were the only places where people learned new things. I believed that after graduation, learning would stop. I thought that once people found a job, they no longer needed to study. But as I became older, I realized something very different. Life itself is the greatest classroom. Every day teaches us something. Every person we meet has something to teach us. Every success teaches us confidence. Every failure teaches us wisdom. Every conversation gives us a new perspective. Every journey helps us understand the world a little better. The more I learn, the more I realize that there is still so much to discover. One experience completely changed my attitude toward learning. A few years ago, I decided to learn something completely new. It was something I had never tried before. I didn't know where to begin. At first, I felt very excited. I watched many videos online. I bought a few books. I searched for useful advice. I even made a detailed study plan. I imagined myself becoming good very quickly. Everything looked easy when I watched experienced people doing it. They seemed confident. They moved naturally. They made everything look simple. I thought, if they can do it, I can probably learn it in just a few weeks. But reality was very different. The first few days were much harder than I expected. I couldn't remember what I had just learned. I kept making the same mistakes. Sometimes I spent an entire hour practicing one small thing, but I still couldn't do it correctly. The more I tried, the more frustrated I became. I started asking myself many negative questions. Am I smart enough? Maybe I'm too slow. Maybe I'm not talented. Why is everyone else improving faster than me? Those thoughts appeared again and again. Every time I saw someone doing the same thing much better than me, I lost a little confidence. I started comparing myself with people who had years of experience. Of course they were better than me, but at that time I forgot something very important. They were beginners once too. They also felt confused. They also made mistakes. They also wanted to give up sometimes. I only saw where they were today. I didn't see the long journey they had taken to get there. One evening, I almost decided to stop learning completely. I closed my notebook. I turned off my computer. I looked at all my notes and felt disappointed. I thought, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should spend my time doing something easier. But before I went to bed, I remembered something my teacher once told me. She said, "Every expert was once a beginner." Those simple words stayed in my mind all night. The next morning, I looked at my study plan again. This time, I changed my approach. Instead of trying to learn everything at once, I decided to focus on only one small goal each day. I didn't study for many hours. Sometimes I practiced for only 20 or 30 minutes. But I promised myself one thing. I would practice every single day, even if I felt tired, even if I felt busy, even if I didn't feel motivated. Some days were wonderful. I understood new ideas very quickly. Other days were difficult. I forgot simple things. I made silly mistakes. But instead of feeling angry, I reminded myself that mistakes were part of the process. Little by little, I noticed something surprising. The things that had once seemed impossible slowly became easier. I didn't notice the improvement every day. But after 1 month, I looked back. I realized I had improved much more than I expected. Then 3 months passed. The skill that once frightened me had become part of my daily routine. I no longer felt nervous every time I practiced. I no longer worried about making mistakes. Instead, I became curious. I wanted to learn even more. I began enjoying the learning process instead of only thinking about the final result. That experience taught me one of the most valuable lessons in my life. Progress is usually invisible. When we look at ourselves every day, we don't notice how much we are changing. But if we compare ourselves with the person we were 6 months ago, the difference can be amazing. Small improvements may not seem important today, but after hundreds of days, those small improvements become something incredible. Learning is very much like planting a tree. On the first day, you plant a tiny seed. The next day, nothing seems different. A week later, it still looks almost the same. If you become impatient, you might think nothing is happening. But underneath the ground, the roots are growing stronger every day. Then one morning, a small green leaf appears. Months later, the little plant becomes a strong tree. Learning works exactly the same way. Every book you read is like watering the tree. Every mistake helps the roots grow stronger. Every day of practice makes you a little better, even if you cannot see it yet. I also learned that mistakes are not our enemies. Before, I hated making mistakes. Every mistake made me feel embarrassed. I thought mistakes meant failure. Now I think differently. Mistakes are teachers. Every mistake tells us what we need to improve. If we never make mistakes, we are probably not challenging ourselves enough. Some of my biggest improvements came after making my biggest mistakes. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" I started asking, "What can I learn from this?" That one question completely changed my attitude. I became more patient. I became more confident. Most importantly, I became kinder to myself. Sometimes we expect ourselves to learn everything immediately, but we would never expect a baby to learn how to walk in one day. Children fall hundreds of times before they can walk confidently. Nobody laughs at them. Nobody tells them to stop trying. Instead, everyone encourages them. I think adults deserve the same kindness. When we learn something new, we are beginners again. And beginners are supposed to make mistakes. That is how learning works. Today, I actually enjoy learning new things. Sometimes I read books about subjects I know nothing about. Sometimes I watch documentaries. Sometimes I listen to people with different experiences and different opinions. Every conversation becomes a chance to learn. Every day becomes an opportunity to grow. Learning has made my life more interesting. It has made me more open-minded. It has helped me understand people better. Most importantly, it has shown me that there is always something new waiting to be discovered. Now I'd like to ask you a few questions. What is the newest thing you have learned? Why did you decide to learn it? Was it difficult at first? Did anyone help you? How did you feel when you finally understood it? What new skill would you like to learn in the future? Maybe you want to learn another language. Maybe you want to learn how to cook. Maybe you want to learn to play a musical instrument. Or maybe you simply want to become a better version of yourself. Whatever your goal is, remember that every great achievement begins with one small step. Try answering these questions in English. For example, I learned English. I practiced every day. It was difficult at first. I made many mistakes. But I never gave up. Now I feel much more confident. Remember, you don't have to be the fastest learner. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You only need to keep moving forward. One small step every day can completely change your future. Thank you so much for spending this peaceful time with me today. I hope today's conversation reminds you that learning is a lifelong journey. Never be afraid to begin. Never be afraid to make mistakes. And never stop being curious. I'm Channie. Thank you for listening until the end. Take good care of yourself. Keep asking questions. Keep learning something new every day. Keep believing in your ability to grow. And remember, the person who keeps learning will never stop becoming stronger, wiser, and more confident. I'll see you again in our next conversation. Goodbye, my dear friend.